So you're considered a bit of a pioneer in the contemporary Christian worship scene. How did this happen? Was this kind of planned, or did it happen some other way?
Oh, it definitely was not planned. Quite the opposite. We started, my husband and I had been in ministry really since we were about 17, playing in youth groups, musicians, so he was drumming. We were always in a band of some sort, doing some sort of ministry in high schools. And we moved to Sydney when I think we'd been married just a year, moved to Sydney and went to a little church, Hills Christian Life Centre. There was about 120 people there. And, we just loved the local church, actually. And I just started serving in the music team, and because I'd been singing for a long time and been trained up under amazing vocal arrangers, being in the studio environment, doing jingles, etc., and being on television, I was really raised up in an incredible professional environment. So I just started doing that within the church, pulling vocals together and getting blends together and working out arrangements. And actually, it's still one of my favorite things to do, always in the background. And I love being in the background. And then I remember our pastor, as things were going really strong and the church had grown incredibly, and Brian Houston, great leader. The church was growing incredibly. We had a beautiful worship pastor there, and he had a really rough season in his life. I remember Brian asking me to lead worship, and I said, no, you got the wrong person. I'm great in the back. And then one day he was leading worship. The pastors, how they always used to lead worship like this. I was like, they were bringing an airplane in, it's like this way. And I think they just had to. It was that era. And then one day he just looked at me and he just went, get here. And he just walked off. Wow. And kind of left me there. Wow. To lead. And that's how I started leading worship. It was never, I was so not confident, not about singing, but the responsibility about leading anything spiritual. I was really mindful that these are not songs, these are prayers. These aren't jingles. These are theological signposts in people's lives, and this really matters, and so that's how this started. And I think too, being female, which in Australia, I've got to say, there's never been, a thing about being male or female. It just, whoever will get the job done the best, you're it, let's go. So, but I remember for the rest of the world, I wrote Shout to the Lord. The church was humming, the songs were coming out of the church, and then when our worship pastor had to step aside and I got kind of thrown in there, it was like a wild time, just wild. And then suddenly we're getting phone calls from America and the UK saying, how could she be the first woman worship leader, on a public scale? And we were like, what? Totally unaware, really, because it was never a big deal for us. But that's how organic the process was. Everything was a surprise. Everything. We were unprepared in a beautiful way. It was messy and lovely and raw. And we spent a lot of time on our knees going, God, help us, because we don't know what we're doing. And I actually think it was that was the beauty of the whole journey.
Wow. I heard somewhere as well, tell me if this rumour is true, when you first started, you were kind of so shy, you wanted to sing with your back to the audience. Is that correct?
When I introduced Shout to the Lord, I did have my back to my worship pastor and because I was so embarrassed. But when I would talk to the church, right, and I would go out to say good morning and start leading, I would write down, good morning, church, let's worship together. Like I couldn't string 6 words together without my hand shaking and watching the piece of paper. Yeah, that is true.